Candice Holdsworth, a very good evening. Welcome to Drive. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, Jeremy.
Hello. We saw each other. You don't know this. We worked together the day that I got the flu on that show. I was in bed for 3 weeks after that. I know, dreadful. Anyway, listen, don't pretend you care, Holdsworth, what you talking
about. No, I've had it. I've had that flu over Christmas, and it ruined my Christmas.
Oh, God, I gave it to her as well. I think I gave it to her.
I vowed I would never spend a Christmas in winter again. It was so bad.
Here's a question for you. Will you, though, like me, as a result of the first flu I've ever had, will you have the jab next year? Because I will. I don't care what anybody tells me.
Yes. So we all had it this year, and we were fine, and we were like, OK, that was maybe the key all along.
Unbelievable. What a day it's been. Let's start with Candice Holdsworth's response with a straight face to the news that Sir Dreary Starmer's corruption minister has had to resign today because she's being criminally accused of corruption in Bangladesh, where her aunt was the Prime Minister. You couldn't write this stuff, could you?
No, you couldn't. And what I find fascinating about this, if this had been anyone in the Conservative government, they would have demanded their head on a pike, on an absolute pike, for anything less. You've now had 2 ministers in this Conservative government have to sit down because of things that they've been involved with. And yet, when Keir Starmer took power, I mean, they presented themselves as neo-Puritans, as they were going to clear out the rot, that this was a complete change. But actually, now you're being held to the standards to which you held others.
Just had a really interesting text whilst your dog barks a lot, which is brilliant.
Oh, sorry.
No, I don't care at all. I know you. I know you so well. You'll be like, please don't make any noise, kids. And now you've got a dog kicking off. Brilliant. Can I ask you a question somebody just saying? Because I hadn't thought about this. I put this out there for other people as well. If you are deemed incompetent or a liar or whatever it is, not able to be a minister, do we as a society not think that that should automatically mean that you shouldn't still be an MP and there should be a by-election? Am I missing the point? And I include all sides. If you are sacked because you're being investigated for corruption, how come you're not up to being a government minister but you are up to representing 60,000 people? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's a really good distinction, and I think so. And I think that this scandal will have definitely damaged her in the eyes of her constituents because, you know, when you vote, you don't know about these things. But this is an absolute change in circumstances and in the information you have about this person. So you've got to see if the people who voted for you still have faith in you.
Let's talk today about a report that came out, a poll last night, Candice, when we went off air at 10 o'clock from YouGov, the Rolls-Royce of pollsters, let's be honest, putting Nigel and Richard's party reform literally just a point behind this sitting Labour government. Now, let's just put that into context. I know the Labour Party is massively unpopular right now, but there's 2 things that I drew from that. One was, I think that's a seminal moment. I think that's the end of 2-party politics. I think that is a reset in how this country looks at its next government. More than that, the Tory party is now the 3rd party in that poll, which, on the basis of a new leader that not many people are really inspired by at the moment, because we haven't heard any meat on the bone, she's behind the 8 ball. And I think that poll last night is a huge pointer to what the British people are feeling right now.
Oh, definitely. I think that the Conservatives right now under Kemi Badenoch are failing to capture the mood. I think Kemi Badenoch thinks it's a long way from an election. I don't have to do anything right now. Lots could happen. But actually, no, I think she needs to start building the momentum now because right now she's nowhere. And I think that Reform have so much energy. And what they're doing is they're capitalising on Labour's, I think, record unravelling. I mean, have you ever known a government to unravel so quickly?
But I don't know about you. We talked about this last time when I saw you when we were doing Plank. I just don't think... all I guess I'm trying to say really badly is, if I'd been in opposition that long, I would have a plan. I would know the sorts of people that I wanted to employ. I'd have checked those sorts of people out. It's almost as if every part of their being and their energy was on saying nothing, knowing they were going to get elected anyway, the result of which is frankly, a shambles. I mean, you had yesterday Starmer not defending Reeves, then Downing Street did. Today we hear that actually it looks like he's promised Lammy will be the Foreign Secretary for 5 years. Well, You've got Lammy, who I think is probably the worst foreign secretary ever. We've got Rachel from Accounts, who understandably is in trouble and is being criticised, I think. I think it's in about 28 weeks, they've shown themselves to be an appalling government, I think.
Yeah, I think they had a plan. I think they had loads they wanted to do, but they knew that the British public wouldn't necessarily like it. So, you know, they didn't speak much about what they wanted to do and just sort of said what people wanted to hear. But I mean, Rachel Reeves, I mean, she's got some pretty radical ideas for the economy, though she tried to present herself as a moderate. And what's happened is they haven't survived contact with reality. They just haven't. I mean, you don't even need a degree in economics to understand why it's going wrong. You just need a very basic understanding of how an economy works. But I mean, they're going to carry on arrogantly unless somehow they can get the markets to calm, which is what I think they're hoping, that if they just announce some, you know, extreme measures, that the markets will calm down and they can just tough it out. But I think what it's shown is they don't know what they're doing. They couldn't predict the future accurately, and events have gone beyond their control, and they're sort of in panic mode right now.
Couldn't agree more. This will be right up your street as a woman who's not scared to make her feelings known. This government, I think, would love to have a nanny state and tell us when we can wash and who we can go out with and who we can speak to. News today that pubs, I mean, this is all about Labour's workers' rights reform. Apparently, right, pubs could ban customers from speaking about contentious issues. So if you go to a pub now, right, you can't have a fag, a cigarette in the garden. Your pint's probably going to be about £8 And if you sit down, if you and I sat down in a pub and we said, do you know what, I don't think it's right that transgender athletes swim in races, let's example, Sharon Davis was talking to us the other night, take part in female races, it's not fair, it's not right, there should be a separate category. If we sat down and we said, I think immigration's running amok and illegal migrants are taking advantage of this country, the bar people, do you notice what I said there? Because you can't say barman because you'd be called sexist or something. They could phone the police and you and I, Candice, could be arrested. What do you make of that?
Any pub that does this, let's see how long it survives. It will not last a minute. Nobody will go there. No one will go there. This is the problem when you have an overweening state. You don't know what you can do. You don't know what you can't do. Because actually, some of these things that they say can be made illegal, we actually have rights to do that under other laws. So this is what happens. One law says you can do it. Another law says you couldn't do it. This is why we don't need this overpowerful controlling state. But I think the reality of that is if a pub becomes known as something like this, out of East Germany, no one will go there. And instead it will be like the Prohibition era in America in the 1920s. You will have places of freedom. You will have speakeasies. You will have people who will go to places where they know they can speak freely. That is how it is. People will not be cowed and they will not be bullied.
I mean, that's the point. See, I'm going to be told that I can't talk about transgender rights or I can't moan about the fact this country's on its backside because for fear of being arrested. That's ludicrous. The very basis of this country was that we are a free speech haven. I honestly, I listen to rubbish like that and I despair because I think to myself, so let me get this right. I can't go to the pub and moan about the fact that transgender athletes take part, because that really winds me up. But I've got a Prime Minister who won't hold a national inquiry into rape gangs. I refuse to call them grooming gangs, rape gangs that have been going on for years. Because what? Because apparently he thinks that won't be useful. I do, because there are kids being abused. What an idiot. I don't understand the priorities of this government at all. It's beyond me.
No, he's totally out of touch. He's totally out of touch. And this is why you're getting some Labour MPs, you know, some veteran Labour MPs like Sarah Champion and Andy Burnham.
The Rotherham MP, Sarah Champion, a shining light in that Labour Party, saying, listen, I'm not bothered about the three-line whip. I'm bothered about the people in my constituency.
No, they know. Yeah, I'm sure loads of people are contacting them saying, we want an inquiry. What are you doing? And I think that Starmer is just showing time and time again. He just doesn't have a good feel for things.
Nicola in Norfolk, she says, Jez, Candice, she says she can't make this up, this stuff. The corruption minister resigns 2 hours ago because she's being investigated for corruption. It's just another day in the life of this incompetent, hapless shambles of a bleeding government. I mean, that's absolutely right, isn't it? I mean, it's just a joke.
Of course it is. I mean, I think there's quite a restive atmosphere in the country. I think that was always going to happen with a government that won a very weird election. wasn't in any way attuned to the people and is very out of step with the mood of the times. Very out of step.
See, I think politics is easier than people make out. I think you listen to people. Sometimes you need to tell them that you can't make the decision that they want you to make, and you explain why. But I do not understand for the life of me why this man is seemingly that... I mean, did you see the letter? The letter to Tulip Sadiq, who resigned as the corruption minister today because she's being investigated for corruption. His letter was, I hope so the door is always open for a return. Well, how are the British people going to buy that then? The woman's obviously out of a job because she hasn't told the truth.
Yes, empty words, very, very, very empty words. I think that Keir Starmer is a very managerial type. He's a technocrat. I think that's how he thinks.
He's an accountant, isn't he? He's a boring... I'm not saying all accountants are boring, but honest to God, man, he's about as... I just don't have the feeling that he's inspiring in any way, that he leads in any way, that he makes any of us feel like, yeah, that's quite a brave decision, or he's just rubbish, man. I can't believe he's the Prime Minister. Before you go, Donald Trump, not everybody's cup of tea, although there are moments increasingly where I wish that we had somebody like that in this country that didn't listen to the bedwetters and just got on with doing what is patently right for this country. He's been spouting left, right and centre, and it turns out, it seems, we're very close to Israel and Hamas announcing a ceasefire in the Middle East. Donald's just said, and I quote, because if they don't get it done by next Thursday, I will unleash hell, like hell that has never... I mean, say what you want about this man, but stuff happens when he's around, doesn't it?
Well, this is it. This is what everyone's been saying. You know, he's very strong in what he says, but he can also be a bit unpredictable. And in times like these, where you're dealing with a lot of brutes and a lot of dictators and people who sort of have those sort of like animal instincts for things, it's actually very useful. You know, you've got to fit the mood of the times, and I think in many ways Donald Trump does fit the mood of the times. You can't be weak. I mean, I think one of the problems that Joe Biden had is that both sides in this conflict knew that they could just sort of push him wherever they wanted him to go. Somebody
wrote us a text the other day, Candice, and it said, Donald Trump has vowed to make the American people's lives financially better. He's vowed to make their country safer. He's vowed to make their services stronger, and he's vowed to make America what it used to be abroad. What is wrong with that? Wouldn't we feel great if somebody came to the United Kingdom and did that? I would. $1 million.
This is where my libertarian instincts rear up a bit, and I'm like, of course I want brilliant, competent, talented politicians, but ultimately I will never put my total faith in a politician to make my life good. I will always put it in my family, my community, whatever work I do, my friendships. Those are the most important, and those we have to cherish, and that has to be ultimately where we make ourselves happy, always, because politicians can only promise so much and achieve so much because they're human beings.
Listen, it's great to have you on. It's always great to have you on. We'll see you very soon. I really appreciate it.